Feminism. Feminism is a range of social movements, political movements, and ideologies that aim to define and establish the political, economic, personal, and social equality of the sexes.
Okay, so for our site, we all decided to take feminism and look at how the issues that feminists face can be compounded by other intersectional issues. So for mine, I made a page about LGBTQ plus feminism and how people of different sexualities are getting involved in the feminist movement. And so I wrote about lesbian feminism and how, since feminism has become a lot more mainstream, the whole lesbian feminism movement has kind of taken a back seat. So I talked about how they're getting more involved. And then I started talking about trans feminism and the whole what is a real woman argument. And I took a little bit of time to talk about the J.K. Rowling situation and then explained my personal take on who can get involved in the movement, which is everyone.
Aidan, would you say there's a specific like group of people that is more like in your intersection, like in the LGBTQ plus community that is more like I guess feminist than others? Like you're talking about like lesbian feminism taking a back seat.
No, I wouldn't say that. My whole spiel in my site was that I think we should err on the side of being inclusive, in that anyone who wants to be a feminism is a feminist to the fullest extent of the word. So like even trans feminists and lesbian feminists are all still feminists. They're all working towards the same goal.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
I like that. I feel like this is kind of a little bit off, not off topic necessarily, but I feel like it's very important to say um, just basic right now. A lot of common misconceptions about feminism, I feel like, is um, people calling feminism or understanding it as misandry, which is um, women being better than men, which in reality, like feminism doesn't help just women, which I think we all talked about in a sense in our different intersections and our own sites. And yeah, I feel like it's important to say that because a lot of mainstream media sometimes paints feminists as women wanting to be better than men, but in reality, there already is a definition and a word for that. And yeah,
Yeah, they're just everyone's looking for equality and to be a part of the movement. Kind of helps
yeah,
people find a sense of unity.
yeah, and it doesn't just help women. Also, I feel like it's important to remember that.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
All right. Uh, Yseult, you want to talk about your page?
yeah, so mine I did feminism in beauty standards and why feminism is important there. So I started talking. I reintroduced Cottam and her essays, Thick, and I thought it was. She talked about very important, I guess, topics, especially in her essay "In the Name of Beauty" and her experience of first really noticing the set beauty standards, especially like she referenced an anecdote of her in her English class and watching the movie Grease with her class and how different people in her class reacted differently to when her example was when Sandy showed up in her shiny skin tight pants and how everyone like reacted differently. She personally, like, she didn't necessarily say it, but she somewhat alluded that it wasn't her really cup of tea, I guess, if you want to say that. She didn't really find it like super like attractive or anything, but like she was saying how there was white boys in her class saying like how there was a too tall white boy that had shouted, "My hot damn Miss Newton John," and that was in his definition as attractive. And I think it's important to notice that attraction isn't the same for everyone. And um, and a lot of mainstream media, and especially social hierarchy is like changing, is like, I guess, like dictating what is attractive and what not. And I started off my essay or my written portion as defining what beauty is. And as what Oxford Languages says, it's a combination of qualities such as shape, color, or form that pleases the aesthetic senses, especially the sight. And so I pose a lot of questions such as like, what determines what is aesthetically pleasing? And obviously it's unique to every individual, but in the US, not really. I feel like um, because of how the social hierarchy in the US, especially, like it's evolved. I, from at least my perspective, I feel like it's getting better. Like we're a little more inclusive than we used to be, but it was usually always the skinny white blonde girl that was always like the epitome of attraction, which is not true. Obviously everyone, it looks different, and it's not like, oh, they're attractive and they're not. um and even now today, like it's changing, such as I also referenced the Kardashians and Kim Kardashian making big butts and boobs popular. And so I feel like it's a lot of like toxicity, revolving with beauty standards. And it's important to like not tie yourself to that. But of course, it's always easier said than done. It's that's yeah. And I mentioned pageants. I feel like those really stood out to me as like the epitome of just like beauty, like you're literally being judged on how pretty you are. And so like beauty standards, like they're like really prominent there.
Yeah.
And you can see like it has evolved, granted, but like the girls that always win are always like skinny, usually, well, there's some brunettes here, but they're usually blonde and white. And it's really toxic, especially that the whole world isn't blonde and white and skinny. Like that's not how people are always look like. And so yeah.
Uh,
And
yeah, just going. If you're, are you done? I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
oh, no, you're sorry. I rambled. I don't want to take anyone else's time.
No, you're good. So just going off of that, that's actually it kind of segues into my portion where I talked about feminist movements that are, I guess, different and from different parts of the world. So I focused on white Western feminism and third world feminism, and kind of going off your beauty standards uh, portion, how it intersects with feminism. So, white Western feminism is actually setting a standard of beauty and a standard of feminism that third world countries have or feel, or people that live in developing countries feel like they have to emulate. Um, and that was becoming very toxic, and it wasn't aligning with their lives and their experiences because, based on an intersectional framework, everyone across the world experiences things differently, and they have different religions and cultures. And so, for the beauty standards, uh, is creating a very toxic system, and the Western feminism as well that really highlighted white women and their experiences as being universal became very toxic. And so that's kind of why third world feminism came to be. And so I just wanted to note that. But for my section, I talked about these distinct feminist movements and how they interact with race or how they don't interact with race, and the role that intersectionality really plays and doesn't play in the foundation of these movements. So, again, we have our white Western feminism, which universalizes a experience of predominantly white women from these Western countries, such as the U.S. and a couple of developed European nations. And then we have third world feminism, which really opens the door to heterogeneity and the idea that there are diverse women all across the world who have their own unique experiences, and those need to be accounted for when we think about feminism and feminist discourse. So yeah, and then I just kind of explained the differences and similarities between the two, and just examine them under an intersectional lens. Uh, so yeah, I will pass it on, or if we want to talk about it at all.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's kind of important because you don't really think about like being a feminist is hard, like it's a lot of work. But then when you compound that with discrimination because of race and like where you're from, the country that you're from, it can, you know, double down and make things pretty difficult. So it's good that we got that sort of perspective.
Yeah, it kind of is counterintuitive for women to judge women,
Yeah.
and I think third world feminism is kind of, fighting against that standard that has been around for so long, where women from Western countries are, judging the experiences of others. So yeah.
Okay, so I guess I'll talk about my part now. Do you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. So I focus on feminism in the youth, and it goes without saying that feminism should be taught in schools. But I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't really taught. Like we didn't really have a unit on feminism until maybe like late high school.
Yeah.
So a lot of the research I saw, um, the main concern was when it should be taught in school. So if it should be taught in grade school, middle school, or earlier than it usually is now. And another concern that I found out was it's important on who teaches it, and because you really have to give off the good idea that feminism isn't about women wanting to be better than men, like Yseult said. It's more about just fighting for equality. So the teacher has to give off the impression that they're just fighting for equal rights and or equal, you know, just wanting to be equal with men. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, I think we hit all of our points. So now I hope our website reader enjoys our site.
Nice.
Cool.